TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes, to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Flirson and Blurnsball.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is AEW All Out 2020, brought to you by All Elite Wrestling. Joining me to talk about All Out 2020 is one of the podsmen, the only podsman who dares to watch AEW, Mr. Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey, how do you do?
I am doing wonderful, and it's been a long time since we talked AEW, so I'm super pumped to talk about it. Was All Out actually our favorite show, Mark? I guess we'll answer that question very soon.
Let me say right off the top, this was way too long.
Whoa! If you included the pre-show, 5 hours, sir. I thought there was something wrong. I was like, man, am I watching an episode of Dark along with this, or what's happening? It went on forever.
Yeah, I didn't watch the pre-show. I didn't watch it Saturday night. I was at a concert with my wife, and so I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, anticipating it was going to be a 3-hour show, figuring I'd be done by 10, get up, take a shower, and go to have breakfast with my parents, and get my kids back from their overnight stay since they were being they had a sleepover with Grandma and Grandpa. And like at 10:30, I woke my wife up and I'm like, "Hey, we got to get ready to go out." And I don't even think like MJF and John Moxley had started yet.
Wow. No, this thing was epically long. I don't know what they were doing. So, I mean, listen, WWE have figured out the formula. They know that they've been going way, way, way too long with their big shows. So they've dropped their shows to 2 hour 45 minutes or the nice, convenient 3-hour time slot. For a pay-per-view, that's perfect, in my opinion. But when you cross the waterline of when you go past 4 hours, I don't know if there's anybody left watching. And the poor folks that are, including the talent, man, it just takes the crowd down. It kills the what little momentum there is going on inside that ring. And boy, you know, it's sleepy time for us. So these things need to be watched in increments. I mean, there's no way I'm sitting through 5 hours of AEW, and I love the product. So
I fell asleep on it. Like I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I watched it on my phone in my bed. And about midway through, at about Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa and the 8-man tag, I just slept.
I'm 100% with you. I literally had to go back and watch 2 matches because I couldn't recall them. So I completely watched the entire pay-per-view, so I'm well versed in it right now. But man, it took forever to get my head wrapped around this thing.
There were 3 matches they absolutely should have cut from this, and I'm not even counting like the pre-show.
Oh, no.
But there were 3 matches that just didn't belong on this pay-per-view. They should have been on Dynamite. You needed to, first of all, Big Swole versus Britt Baker. We're going to talk about it, but cut that. That was unnecessary. That's a bit that should have been done on Dynamite. That didn't belong on the pay-per-view. The Young Bucks and the Jurassic Express, I don't even know why they made that match. From what I've been told, from the notes that I've been given, the Young Bucks are supposed to be heels. They're not acting like anything. They're douchebags.
No.
They've always been douchebags.
No, in fact, it's quite the opposite when we learn a little bit later on when you have the Kenny Omega situation, which we'll talk about. They're far from heels, man. So, you know, they're a little bit cocky-er, I will say. And then earlier appearances, they're not as, you know, as modest and, hey, we're here to represent the company. They're getting more of an edge to them, but they're certainly a far, far direction away from being a heel.
So I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing with the Jurassic Express other than burying them. But they shouldn't. They should not have made a face versus face tag team match apropos of nothing. It was just a match to get these 2 teams on the show, and it did nothing for nobody. And the third match that should have been cut. And if you had done this, you'd have cut. Let's see, Big Swole. Britt Baker was 10 minutes. The Young Bucks and the Jurassic Express was 15 minutes. That's 25 minutes cut from this show. We're already back into decent territory time-wise.
Yep.
Then cut another 15 minutes. Boom. You cut the Dark Order versus the Nightmare Family.
Oh boy, yeah, you're not kidding. So that's you're exactly right. And how long did that run? What's the run time on that?
15
on that
minutes,
four-way?
10 seconds.
Right. Wow. I mean, you have matches here that are a half hour long. I mean, it doesn't matter how good the two teams are. Like when you talk about FTR, for example, their match. I mean, that thing went. What did that go? Was the run time on that a half hour? It had to be.
Yeah. Almost.
Oh, yeah.
It was literally almost 30 minutes.
And had like 15 minutes in, I'm at a gas on that match already. So I mean, it did more to harm the talent and the flow of the matches than it did to keep people entertained. And I know you're going for your Meltzer 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome, brother. But you know what? Those stars go away when you reach a certain time limit especially an American fan like us.
And then cut both of those buy-in matches. Put the Battle Royal in the buy-in.
Yes, you're not wrong. I mean, you know what? I did enjoy the Battle Royal, to be quite honest with you. You know, it was, it had it had one spot in particular, which Titus O'Neil is glad that the heat is finally off him. But, there was a lot of stuff to talk about inside that little match. But you're right. That is what you put on your pre-show. Like a Battle Royal belongs on the pre-show. And they were setting up a future title shot. So, I mean, it still had stakes and could still get people to physically buy in, which is exactly the point.
So now you have 8 matches. So you cut 3 matches plus the 2 buy-in matches. You have 8 matches total, including your buy-in match. You're at 3 hours or less. That would have been perfect. You start getting into 4 hours. You could literally have Flair Steamboat, or Steamboat Savage, and you're going to lose people.
100%.
All right,
100%.
Let's get started talking about these matches one by one. The Big Swole Britt Baker was an embarrassment to wrestling. It was just they basically just did a bit, and it was like, I didn't know what they were going for. Like, was it supposed to be like cartoony? And if that's the case, I'm getting a little tired of AEW's version of cartoon Looney Tunes wrestling, especially when the two people involved aren't good at it. Like, Britt Baker's a good heel. She plays a good bitch, but like, I don't see her as being like Looney Tunes. And Big Swole just sucks at everything.
Oh, man. Like, you got two people here who they put a lot of steam behind. Like, Big Swole, I just don't get it. I mean, yeah, you know what? You're trying to get some African-American talent over, which is a good thing. It's, and I mean, she definitely has a cool look. But, man, when that bell rings, she just can't get her stuff together enough to string together a decent match. And like you said, I mean, they're trying these cinematic matches. I mean, we're in 2020, the year of COVID, the year of the cinematic masterpiece. And this was as far away as possible. I would love to have Braun Strowman and, Bray Wyatt sitting in a swamp getting eaten by alligators way over this. Holy cow, this was just a mess.
When AJ and The Undertaker did it, it worked because they took it seriously.
Absolutely.
And God bless them, Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt at least tried in the swamp. Like they were
they did.
They were going for something supernatural. They took it seriously, too. This was Looney Tunes. This was Daffy Duck and Elmer Fudd. And I just don't care. I wasn't interested, and it looked bad. And I'm sorry, I did laugh at one thing though. I guess when Reba got put in the dumpster, and then she showed up later for the finale, and she had the banana on her head.
That was hilarious. The little subtle things. Actually, she's hilarious. Reba's hilarious as Britt's sidekick. I just love everything she does. She's not your typical, sit there and get beaten down type of thing. She actually, plays a role, and she's like one of the Three Stooges. She gets beat over the head, thrown in dumpsters. Like, she's just a utility player, but a great one in the background.
Right.
Now, Britt Baker, thank God that, she's finally, I don't know if she's technically back in working shape yet, but she's getting there. And I don't know what this showcased, but, man, this was we talked about AEW being, proactive and with the times and, in tune with what the fans want. this whole pay-per-view seems to be a stepward back. You know what I mean? This is what we criticized WWF for back in the day when you were putting diapers on the 1-2-3 Kid when he's fighting Razor Ramon. Same stuff we got going on in this whole show. So I mean, there's a lot of things where I'm seeing this company going a little bit backwards, and WWE getting a little bit more progressive in what they're doing. So,
but they're going even backwards from what we criticized last year about them, where they did overly long pay-per-views and they were putting a lot of garbage on there, and like not everyone needs to make the show.
No, and I mean, let's. You're 100% right. Everyone's trying to get a payday, and with 5 hours, they jammed a ton of people on this show, including 8-man tags, which nobody wants to see anymore. Let's be quite honest here. Now, you had some things about this match, though. They had some really odd stuff. So they had background music. Did you notice that? They had like an ominous background music, which was sort of weird. They had Reba, the receptionist, there with a clipboard that would not, it wouldn't break a block of butter. I mean, it was like the lowest impact you've ever seen from something being beaten over somebody's head. You had a closet or a cupboard that you opened up with a bunch of chattering teeth.
Yeah,
what
that's what I mean. Like they were going for that like cartoon humor, and it wasn't landing.
And then they open it. You're right. They're going for cartoon humor, but then they open up another door, and the whole room was filled with blood. Like what are you going for? Are you going for humor? Are you going for dark? Or what? What are you trying to do?
There's nobody editing. There's nobody to say no. That's stupid. There's nobody with a vision. It's just whatever cracks up whoever's in the room. And because nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings, so nobody says no.
Is Tony Khan becoming Vince McMahon laughing at poopy jokes? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, no. Tony Khan, be better than this. Be better than this. But anyway, that's enough time spent on that.
All right, so the Young Bucks versus the Jurassic Express. I don't understand what they're doing with the Jurassic Express. They got two guys who, I mean, obviously they need work, they need polish.
Oh, Mark.
Yes?
To Sheehan?
So, sorry, we had some malfunction there. But when we were talking about the Young Bucks and
Jurassic Express,
and I was saying Jurassic Express have a lot of potential, and they just both need polish. They both need to go to like NXT and learn from the ground up how to do this right. But they're a babyface team. The Young Bucks generally are a babyface team. I mean, what they're doing with the Young Bucks, where they're being super serious and everything, or as Jim Cornette calls them, super serial. But they're not doing anything heelish. So it's still a face team versus a face team. And haven't we seen this before? Haven't we seen the Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks already?
Oh God, yeah, hell yes, absolutely. In different varieties. So we've seen them in like 8-man tags. We've seen them in different combinations of matches. I mean, yeah, this is not new. All the matches that we've seen tonight, with the exception of almost nothing, have already been all played out. Mm-hmm. FTR maybe off TV. Maybe they've done some work with their opponents, but that was about it. Everything else has been there, done that, to be quite honest with you.
So, I mean, this is all building towards FTR versus the Young Bucks. That's what they signed FTR for.
Yes.
That's why they put the belts on them later in the show. The big money match, whether it's at Full Gear or it's at Double or Nothing next year, is FTR versus the Young Bucks. And so essentially the Young Bucks got put over by the Jurassic Express so that they would have a big win on their way to fighting for the tag team championships, which they put off since this whole thing started. They put over Private Party, they put over a whole bunch of other tag teams. They've taken some losses. This is to build them back up again, which is fine. I get that. I get the Young Bucks have to get built up so that FTR has beaten everybody. The Young Bucks have beaten everybody. They have to fight each other. It's the best versus the best. I'm with you. Maybe the Jurassic Express wasn't the team to do that with.
No, I mean, like I said, face versus face, you don't get that emotion. You don't get that, You know what I mean? It was more competitive. I was wanting to see Jurassic Express go over. And you talk about a heel team. You could literally turn Jurassic Express heels, and those guys would be top mega heels. Can you imagine Marco Stunt, the heel manager? You know, you got Hollywood Boy, Jungle Boy there with that whole Luke Perry thing going on behind the scenes. And you got, of course, his heavy, which is Luchasaurus in the background. I mean, you've got a built-in, like, heel monster group there, literally a monster group, which would be amazing. And I don't know. Like you said, when you put two face teams together, unless you're mega competitive, and this was pretty good. You know, they had a nice gelling of styles. There was no real absence of, loss or breakdown of match. They have good chemistry is basically what I'm trying to say in this match. But same old, man. This is your typical paint by numbers, AEW, kick out of a bunch of finishers, and, finally the Young Bucks or the Elite go over. And that's the whole formula that they're getting tired with this brush with. So nothing's, it was a fine match. It was a fine match.
15 minutes of flippity-doos.
That's literally all. Will you remember this tomorrow? Highly unlikely.
I didn't remember it after I watched it.
Yes.
So, so again, the story of the Young Bucks march to the titles, I'm with you. I want to see it. But just getting there is, forgettable.
Absolutely, 100%. There's no ground up. I mean, like you said, that you talked about the Young Bucks actually building other teams, when they started. They didn't instantly put the titles on themselves, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they put over Private Party, for example, which was amazing because nobody expected it. This new young brash team, and they actually beat the Young Bucks, who are, the indie darlings. And, I really dig the Jurassic Express. I'm into that whole gimmick. I think it's a WWE gimmick that just... I think it needs the WWE behind it to get it to work and function properly.
If they wanted the Dark Order on the pay-per-view, it should have been the Young Bucks versus some iteration of the Dark Order. Probably Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, and that would have been fine.
Absolutely. Or even pull off that whole Colt Cabana thing with that. You didn't need that other match. You could have gelled both of those matches together and it would have been fine. So,
right.
But instead, we had generic.
And if you had to have the Jurassic Express in the pay-per-view, put them in the Battle Royal, because there was a handful of guys in there. I'm like, they don't need to be in this Battle Royal.
Wow. You're not wrong.
Speaking of which, the Battle Royal was next. It was the 21-man Casino Battle Royal. Winner receives an AEW World Champion World Championship match, because God forbid we build a feud and have a reason to fight other than I won a contest.
Yeah, heaven forbid we, actually win singles matches to get our title shots. But hey, at least it's something interesting.
Some memorable bits from this match, because battle royals are what they are. Oh, yeah. What is it? The one guy from the Bullet Club said, "It's exchanging forearms with your good brother."
That's literally what this is. You know what I mean? Every single time, WWE was the master of it, because when Pat Patterson used to book a Rumble, he always gave each of their, at least the showcase people, at least 10 or 12 of those people had showcase spots within that whole match, you know what I mean, with 30 men. They attempted to do that here with mixed success, not due to the fact of the booking, but there was some sloppy stuff going on there, and I'm pointing at you, Matt Sydal.
Oh yeah. Boy. Well, a couple of things I wanted to bring up, a couple of points. The Matt Sydal botch, the bump that Darby Allin took in the body bag.
Oh, my God.
And the missed opportunity to really put over a big man. Jim Cornette brought this up. You have, Jake Hager is fucking Andre the Giant compared to a lot of these guys.
You're not kidding.
Lance Archer is fucking Andre the Giant compared to a lot of these guys. And you have, and we talk about the Diesel push, where one big man walks in and he's just throwing people over the top rope left and right.
Yep.
If you're, I'm okay with I've been waiting for Lance Archer versus John Moxley. They fought for the IGP US belt, I think it was, earlier in the year, and I've been waiting for Lance Archer to have his shot at John Moxley. I have a rant about the amount of people John Moxley is fighting and how fast he's going through people later in the show, so I'll come back to that.
All right.
But since Lance Archer showed up, I was like, okay, they got to give us the U.S. version of John Moxley versus Lance Archer. So I was glad it was, it's his turn with John. He won the Battle Royal. But did Lance Archer really look all that strong in this? For the guy that used to run out there and punch a cameraman, he should have come out there and eliminated half the guys in the Battle Royal.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, you did have that one moment where you had Brian Cage and the Murder Hawk stare down, you know what I mean? And the impact was lost because, you know, those two guys, Brian Cage and the Murder Hawk, they should have been literally gunning through these people. I mean, you take a look at the talent that was in this, or lack of talent that was in this thing. I mean, you had Ray Phoenix, you had The Blade, Jake Hagar, you had like Chuck Taylor, Santana Ortiz, this big dude, Willie Hobbs. I mean, all kinds of people. Like,
I would have rather Jungle Boy been in there than Willie Hobbs.
Oh my God. Oh man. So I've only seen a couple of Will Hobbs matches before, and I mean, you talk about he is like Big E light. That's how I would describe him. And what's with all the NWA guys that they're just pouring in here? Like they're bringing these guys in. You've got like Eddie Kingston, for example, who just comes in. He shows up. You got Ricky Starks, and then later on you got like Thunder Rosa. You know what I mean? Like they're bringing
Is NWA doing shows?
I know they're not back yet, as far as I know.
Well, they still got to get paid. That's why they're coming in.
Yeah. But it's, I think we got a cross promotion going on here. So I think, you know, they actually had one of their titles defended on this pay per view, or at least, you know, showcased. So I mean, pretty cool. But anyway, back to this battle royal. I mean, you had the pushing of some people. Think about this: 4 or 5 weeks ago, Sonny Kiss was one of the highlights on the show. He comes in, and this poor guy gets ragdolled. He's one of the first people out. But then you get Matt Sydal, and, I mean, he's making his AEW debut. So he runs to the ring. He does a couple kicks. He gets on that top rope. And, you know, he's the master of a shooting star press. I mean, very, very few people do that move any better. And he did not hit it. I think it was safe to say he slipped on a banana peel on that top rope, and he took the fall. It looked like he was falling off a skyscraper. He just stayed in the air forever and crashed in a heap. And, you know, listen, bumps are going to happen, like screw-ups are going to happen in these matches, and that's fine. It actually makes the match a little bit more realistic, in my opinion. I don't mind botches. But when you have Kenny Omega the next day going on Twitter, showcasing that bump, and then having like this little gimmick funeral for Matt Sydal. What does that say about your talent? One of your no, seriously, there's a tweet up there. They actually have a funeral procession for Matt Sydal.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I didn't realize that was because I knew him as Matt Bourne in the WWE, and so we were like Matt Sydal, woof, and he falls on his head.
Oh, that was so bad.
I mean,
it was so bad.
AEW walks that line between glossed up indie backyard bullshit and full on like 4-star promotion. They're right there, you know, and that it can be one or the other so easily. And then you're like, they're doing okay, things are slick, and then one of these guys has a fall like that, and you're like, nope, this is an indie garbage promotion.
Yes, exactly. Now they did give Sydal a bit of heat because, I mean, he eliminated Shawn Spears, who has been getting a decent little push there with Tully Blanchard at his side, you know what I mean? Then he gets absolutely shit-can crushed by this Willie Hobbs guy with the spine buster. I mean, Arn Anderson smiling somewhere after that one. It finally got hit correctly, in my opinion. But then he gets there and he's fighting, like, the Butcher. You know what I mean? He eliminates the Butcher with leg scissors, for example. Then he gives like Eddie Kingston a DDT. So I mean, they give him a lot of spots before he's tossed out of that ring. But it's unfortunate it had to come at the cost of that stupid bump. So
I have the entrances and eliminations chart up.
Yep.
And Lance Archer, you know, in their defense, did get 5 eliminations. He got more eliminations than anyone else. Brian Cage got 3. Darby Allin got 2, Matt Sydal got 2, and then everybody else either got 1 or 0.
Well, anyway, the winner of the match was Lance Archer, so we're finally going to get to Archer versus Mox here in AEW, which I think is the match that you needed all along. You know what I mean? That's your showcase. Now, my question is, do you pull the trigger on the Murder Hawk right away? Like, are you going to put Lance Archer in that spot? And I would say yes, because I think the Moxley experiment has run its course with that championship. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Let's come back to this. Okay, I'm going to come back to that question when we talk about John Moxley and MJF, because that's part of a bigger problem I have with the John Moxley experiment. Let's talk about Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, and poor Darby Allin.
Oh, my God.
Now,
what a spot this was! Like, you talk about reckless wrestling.
I
was that fan. Yeah,
they threw him in a bag with thumbtacks and the thumbtack schmumtacks. I don't care about that. They threw him in a bag and then just like tossed him on his fucking head. Outside of the ring. So what were you saying?
We're talking about Lance Archer, and we're talking about, is it the right thing in regards to, what we're doing with this championship. So you got Archer, he wins this one. What's the run time on this Casino Battle Royal? Do you got a time limit on that?
It's like 20 minutes. We were actually talking about Darby Allin.
Oh my God, the body bag spot. Oh my Lord. You talk about a reckless, crazy ass decision to do this particular spot. I mean, we have 2 questionable spots in this entire show, but this was the start of it. I mean, picture this. So you put a really skinny guy in a body bag. He's completely zipped up. So you see him zipper the entire thing up. You get Brian Cage lift this guy, run with him, throw him over the top rope to the rampway on the outside, the old WCW style rampway. This guy cannot see where he's landing. He doesn't, how do you brace your fall inside a body bag, Mark Radulich? Tell me that. This seemed like, I've seen crazy spots, but this one is
all you can
well
do is
up
put
there,
all you can do is put your forearms above your head and turtle up. That's all you can do, because
God.
you're gonna land shitty no matter what. It's like you can't take like a good bump like that. First of all, like he's in the body bag, and I guess like maybe he threw him, back down. Who the fuck knows how he landed?
Well, they open up the bag after, I guess, to check on the poor bastard. But I mean, this guy got murdered.
Pile
Poor
of
Darby
fucking
Allin.
broken glass is what he was.
Oh man, if you do a highlight reel of Darby Allin in AEW, I mean, this guy has taken some sick bumps. And I mean, if you're talking about concussions and injuries in the ring, you dare not show the highlight reel of Darby Allin to any investor, because people will go, "What in the hell promotion is this?"
He's looking to be dead by the time he's 40.
Oh, he's well on the way, and this could have been his way out here, really. Oh my God! But the hits keep rolling.
Yep. Speaking of dead at 40, Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. This was 9 minutes, but this was 9 minutes because I'm sure they were going to have like a 20-minute like stupid, all over the place last man standing match, but they did this spot off of a forklift.
A skylift, yeah.
Which was super awkward to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, so you just to set up this move, you have both guys have to get on the skylift. Then you have to close your gate. You have to fight, and then one person has to manually put that machine up in the air. You know what I mean?
So in the middle of punching, they're having to hit the button and shit.
Too stupid to talk about. So anyway, as they get in the skylift, they raise themselves up. They open up the little gate that locks them in, and there's a table, of course, placed underneath. And both men do I guess a Vic Grimes New Jack sort of plunge backwards through the table. And the same consequence happens here. So Matt Hardy overshoots the table, and he goes back of his head first onto the concrete floor, and he is out of business. He is, he's concussed right off the bat.
What it amazes me is the amount of triangle and TLC matches that were done in the WWE with the Hardy Boys. And they did some pretty sick spots. I don't know if they ever got concussions. They may have. Who knows? It was it was a long time ago, 20 years. But I've never saw one of them take a bump this bad. Fucking Edge speared Devon Dudley mid-air.
Oh, that was amazing. Still a highlight.
Yeah, and it looks safer than this. They just did a simple table spot. They just did it from up on high. But I think about the amount of Shane McMahon bumps. Shane McMahon jumping off the Titantron. Shane McMahon jumping off whatever. There was always crash pads. There was always safety involved, no matter how high the bump was. This past WrestleMania, last year's WrestleMania in New York, where Shane McMahon and Doofus McGee, The Miz,
yeah,
did a high bump. And they hit a crash pad.
And that's the same, basically the same ending here. But you think about it. I mean, you've got Sammy Guevara.
I'm pointing out the fact that there's no safety precautions in AEW. People just jump from the high tower.
And this is not the first time. So
no.
This whole match, I mean, you could tell that this was not meant to be 9 minutes, like you said. Clearly, they were going to battle for about 20 minutes, doing all kinds of gimmick spots, because this match started at the football field. So the first spot in the match, Sammy Guevara is supposed to run over Matt Hardy in a golf cart.
Which I like, because at least that played off the history of Sammy getting hit with the golf cart twice.
Yes. So Matt successfully dodges the golf cart. They get in the skylift. He has his bump, and he's out cold, like I said. I mean, he can't gather himself. They try desperately to continue the match, but Hardy just can't get his bearings, and Aubrey Everett closes off the match.
So the big controversy with this match, let's just talk about this, because this was barely a match. Because shortly thereafter, they're going to clear him to continue, and that's the question. They're going to clear him to continue. He's going to beat Sammy Guevara, because they didn't want, because they booked himself into a corner, and they couldn't. If they were going to continue the match, Matt Hardy had to win it, because that was the planned finish. But the question is, should they have even continued? And the answer is no. I'm not even going to give you a chance to answer. The answer is no. There's no way that should have continued. That should have been cut the lights, go to a package, and that just shows you how Indian garbage AEW is. I mean, look, people talk about the Owen Hart thing and how they should have stopped the show instead of sent everybody home. They at least didn't keep the camera on the chaos in the ring as this dead man was lying there. They can't.
Exactly.
They threw the packages. They threw the interviews. They kept throwing to JR and poor fucking Jerry the King Lawler. That should have been the end of it. Once Matt Hardy hit the ground, splat, and they called the doctor over. They should have thrown to Excalibur and JR and be like, okay, folks, shit happens in wrestling, and we think we have a pretty bad accident here. We'll be right back, and then throw to a Full Gear promo.
The problem is that they ended the match. So she raised the X, the X symbol, and they actually panned away. They went to Tony Schiavone, JR, and Excalibur, and they were talking they had no intentions of starting this match again. Then all of a sudden, it was like this poor edit cut, and all of a sudden you end up in a hallway, and Matt Hardy, I guess he says, no, I can continue.
Right.
And he's walking around googly-eyed.
And an adult should have been like, no, Matt, you're done. Goodbye.
And it cut the announcers off. Yeah, the announcers were cut off guard. Okay, I think we're going to continue this match. This one's not over, folks. They're saying it has to continue. And they painted itself in a corner with this one because the stipulation was that if Matt Hardy loses, he leaves AEW, which, but in hindsight may have been better.
But again, that's within the continuity of kayfabe. Once we broke that because he had a real injury, that should have been the end of it. And honestly, what kills me is that there was a decision maker that was like, let this continue. He's saying he can go, shoot him, and let this continue, and that's where the fault lies.
Yeah, okay. So I'll agree with you on that. So what do you do with someone who's concussed? So you do want to continue this match. You're saying, okay, you know what? Let's get in there. Let's slide in for the Owen Hart, Steve Austin roll-up finish and call this one off. We'll just go with, a modified finish. No, sir. They stick concussed Matt Hardy to climb a scaffold to end this one. Now he's concussed. Now he's climbing up a scaffold, clearly out of his mind, and he just does the light toss of poor Sammy Guevara off into the crash pads, which, it was the only bit of safety that we've seen in this entire pay-per-view, to be quite honest with you, was Sammy's fall. I mean, geez, it was like landing on a trampoline covered in 20 blankets, you know what I mean? Just very, very soft ending. And in those, that we saw it last year with The Miz. I mean, those series of tiles that just cover up the crash pads, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what he landed on. But poor old Matt Hardy, there he was. He's victorious. He's standing on that scaffold. God knows how he got down.
Yeah, meanwhile, there's fucking birds and, stars circling his head.
Oh, he was out of it. I mean,
this was fucking trash.
Yes, sir.
AEW did themselves no favors on this show. with it being too long, this fucking incident, letting Darby Allin take that bump. Like, here's the thing. They're pushing it. They're going to keep pushing it because I don't think they're going to learn their lesson here. And then eventually someone's going to die in that ring. From something completely avoidable.
Crazy, stupid spot. 2 stupid spots back to back. I mean, if you're just an outsider who's just tuning in and trying to, get back into professional wrestling and you see this, man, you'll never watch it again.
Yeah.
That was some rough 2 segments there. That body bag spot and that crazy ass skylift spot.
It's fucking jackass wrestling.
Yeah, there you go. Johnny Knoxville should be part of this company because this is what's happening.
He should be champion. He should be the champion. He's the fucking veteran. He's the Terry. Johnny Knoxville is the Terry Funk of jackass wrestling. Why not just wrestle on top of houses? Why why not? Both guys get in a shopping cart and they start wrestling and they release a shopping cart off a roof.
Why not? Fuck it.
Why are we doing rings? Let's go full backyard here. I watched the Backyard show this year. I think I may have talked about this already.
Yeah, you said it. Yep.
But the at the end of the Backyard show there was a match between Schlack and some other guy, and they were hitting each other with cars, literally like running each over with cars and setting off fireworks on each other.
Oh man,
AEW is not far removed from that.
No, indeed it is not. And just when you thought that they were getting a little bit more professionalism within a promotion, I mean, their last couple pay-per-views, were standard fare. I mean, you thought that a lot of the bad habits that they started with were going away. But, man, they came back in droves here. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Some of the direction and booking in this whole show was just mind-numbing.
Yeah. All right, these next 2 matches, I'm just going to give you the floor. If you've ever thought about when doing these shows to me, like, gosh, Mark cuts me off a lot. Well, boy, I'm not cutting you off for shit here because I was asleep during these 2 matches. Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa, and then the 8-man Dark Order versus the Nightmare Family. Your thoughts, sir?
Okay, so what looked great on paper, Shida versus Thunder Rosa. You've got the AEW Women's Champion taking on the NWA Women's Champion Thunder Rosa. So, I mean, this on paper looks amazing. And you know what? It was not a bad match. You got a series of exchanges, lots of, nice creative submission spots. You got old moves brought back like the swinging pendulum. You got all kinds of stuff. But we got Falcon Arrows. We got Death Valley Drivers. They had a lot of good stuff going on in this match, but they seem to be a beat off, and I think that's the story of the AEW's women division, is that they're always a step off, so everything seems overly choreographed. But these women did not have great chemistry, despite all the moves. I mean, they were doing a series of moves. Like myself and you could have a match right now, and we could write down, 10 moves we're going to do, and we can execute those moves. We could probably pull it off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's all, and that's what this looked like. Hey, let's do a series of moves, and I'm going to beat you with the stupid knee. Why? Why are we still beating people with running knees?
So can I
it
tell
happens you, 10. Yes, go ahead.
Can I tell you why this might have been a step off? So I'm listening to the Jim Cornette review of All Out, and he fucking hates Hikaru Shida. Okay?
Oh.
He has grouped her into the Riho group of Japanese schoolgirls. He fucking hates all of them. And Brian Last always gives him shit. He's like, Hikaru Shida's really good. He tore this match apart. He likes Thunder Rosa. He thinks Thunder Rosa can actually wrestle. He does not think Hikaru Shida can wrestle, and his opinion of this match was basically Hikaru Shida sucks, and she's not a good wrestler, and that's why this was off. That it was hard for Thunder Rosa to get a rhythm because Hikaru Shida is really awkward.
You are exactly right, and that's exactly what I thought. I mean, they were always a step off. They were always, with the headlock, talking into each other in the ear, okay, here's what we're going to do next, and it was really, really obvious. But, you got a series of, it's a series of moves, and like you said, Shida is not a polished act at this point. They can put her over. Excalibur seems to, know every single match this lady has fought and tries to put her over, but it doesn't come across on screen, Mark. There's no star power here with Mulan. I'm sorry. It's just like the movie. Same deal. That is just the way it is. And you know exactly what I'm talking about there. Oh man!
It's weird
and anyway,
it's weird
Shida won.
It's weird that Hikaru Shida isn't better. The late Larry Zonka, 411 Mania, used to praise her and talk about her history in Japanese wrestling. And, you know, she comes off and she has this pedigree where she should be an excellent wrestler. And I don't know if it's the difference between Japanese style and American style where she just can't keep, you know, I don't know if it's keep up or stay with. I guess that would be keeping up. I don't know how you get this woman who came with such high praise from Japanese wrestling, comes to America and has these matches, and she's awkward, and they're a step off, and they don't look good. And it's like you can, and in some of these cases, you can blame it on the person she's wrestling because, you know, there's not a lot of talent in the AEW women's locker room. But apparently, Thunder Rose is really good. And
she is really good.
This was also kind of a theme of the night. They could not find their rhythm
at all. It was a slop fest.
You know, it was like I don't know if you've seen Bill and Ted Face the Music yet, but at the very end, they've got all these, you know, just amazing musicians, and they're like, okay, play the greatest song ever, and they all just start playing, and it's not coming together at all.
And that's exactly what this is. You know what this reminds me of? So let's go back to Attitude Era WWE. Everybody remembers that, right? WWF Attitude Era. So Nitro's over kicking ass. They've got the great cruiserweight division. They've got the LWO. They're full of all the, you know, amazing Mexican talent. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And WWE just decides, okay, well, we're just going to have our, God damn it, pal, we're going to have our cruiserweight division. You know what I mean? Let's get some of those Mexicans in here. And they bring in, like, they don't bring in the Rey Mysterios and the Psychosis. Oh, no, hell no. They bring in Hector Garza. They bring in, like all these fat, out of shape guys, and they can't move, they can't get it done. They're more than a step off. And I think that's what you got here with Shida, is that, hey, you know, we need a Japanese talent. I heard Shida's good. She's Japanese. She has to be good, right? Well, guess what? She's not. She's okay, but man, she needs some polish and some shine. And she's, I would not keep her as the champion in this division. I mean, well, what happened to Nyla Rose? Like, how did that end so quickly? Like, who did you piss off, to get that strap taken off you? Nyla Rose should still be the champion right now, and that's the way it should have been.
All right, give it to me. Give me that 4-man, 8-man tag action.
Oh, so you got the Dark Order, my favorite. Hell no. Well, it's getting a lot better. I'll tell you what. With the addition of Brody Lee and Colt Cabana, this group has gotten a lot better. So the team was Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson, and they're taking on the most awkward team in the world, the Natural Nightmares, with Dustin Rhodes. The man that DDP said is the next version of DDP. Okay, QT Marshall, Scorpio Sky, and Matt I Don't Belong Anywhere Cardona. And of course they trail along Allie and Brandy as well. So I mean, I tell you one thing, the story of this match is that Dustin Rhodes had something to prove in this match, man. This guy was on fire, Mark. This was a standard paint-by-numbers match, but everything that Dustin Rhodes did in that ring was crisp. He had that extra stink on all of his moves. And, Dustin's team won. And, but they played it off. The storyline ending here was that Colt Cabana, he was set up to win by Brody Lee. They had him set up. All he had to do was go in and finish the guy off with a pinfall. Instead, he decides to go to the top rope, hit a moonsault. He misses. And, of course, Dustin takes advantage and rolls him up for the win. And that is the story of this match. So then you had a bit of fallout at the end. So you had Colt Cabana and Brody Lee getting into a heated argument. And they sort of walk away and leave Colt Cabana in the ring. And, of course, Evil Uno comes back and he consoles them and say, it's going to be okay. And they leave together. But you had a celebration on that rampway. I mean, this is only an 8-man tag. And on the rampway, you would swear to God it was Lex Luger defeating Yokozuna at SummerSlam, where all the wrestlers came out, despite it being a count-out win, and they celebrated like crazy with this guy. And that's what happened here. And then we get the message after. I mean, they go back and they have a interview after this match is over with Dustin Rhodes, and he is super pumped. You can tell this guy was energized coming off this match. And they tell him that next week he's going to get a championship shot. Now, before he mentioned this, he was talking about, hey, Cody, brother, you're going to come back and you're going to win your belt back and all that. Then he was told that he is actually going to get that title shot next week. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here. But this was a paint-by-numbers match. But, man, it wasn't because of Dustin Rhodes, because this guy was all over this match. I really, really, really enjoyed his work here. And his promo was fire. I mean, he's teaching these young kids, man, this is how you do it. This is how you go to school right here. Good job on Dustin. No complaints here.
Okay. Next was the much-anticipated FTR for the Tag Team Championships against Kenny Omega and Adam Page. They've been doing the story with Kenny Omega and Adam Page. They're not getting along. FTR.
Yep. Exactly, man. 1.5 hour later, and you were wishing that you had 20 minutes back off this one. Way too long. Way too long.
It's the thing with AEW is they, and I've heard this from a variety of different sources that they don't want real heels, they don't want real faces, they want like a mix. It's that Vince McMahon. We don't want to insult you with good guys and bad guys, except that without that you have no reason to cheer people.
Exactly right. What is your sole purpose? Who are you cheering? Like you have no investment in the match. Like you got to paint the match exactly what the strokes that you want in this match. Who's the heel? Who's the face? How should I feel during this interaction?
It's important. So if FTR made like they were friends with Adam Page, but then they weren't, and that upset Kenny Omega, and Kenny Omega got tired of being offered beer, and this is the I don't want people get very sensitive with whatever word you use, but this is the gayest fucking thing I've ever seen. This is more queer than a $3 bill. It's just fucking ridiculous.
That's hilarious. You're not wrong.
The tag team championships would have been enough if the build up to this had been, FTR saying, "Look, you homos, we're the best tag team in the world, and there's nothing you can do about it, and we're going to throw you over the ring ropes, pull your pants down, and fuck you 8 ways from Sunday." How does that sound?
Well, at least you would have had stakes at hand here. You know what I mean?
They're
literally basing this off missed beer opportunities. He's upset because they offered him beer. Jesus, this is like Booker T and Edge fighting over shampoo at the WrestleMania at Skydome.
Right,
man.
So the build up to this was garbage. It really was. The way they've used FTR up to this point has been hot garbage as well. I have not liked anything they've, between the car thing and the first night in, FTR should have walked in, grabbed a young buck, and thrown them through the barbershop window.
Done.
Okay?
Made your statement. Yep,
they're
right
off
away.
TV for a month as they pull the glass out of their fucking heads. Okay,
exactly.
Then you put that. Then you just start feeding them wins. They go over the Butcher and the Bake. They go over the Jurassic Express. They go over Private Party. Every week they're coming out there and you're just beating the shit out of people. And because neither one of them can really talk all that well, give them Tully Blanchard to say, "You see this? This is a fucking tag team. This is the tag team to beat right here." They finally come, from... Because the whole thing was they came from the WWE because they were being misused and they were being treated as a comedy act. And it was like, no, you let these guys go back to their NXT ways where they're smooth as silk and, and they're machines in there. I was starting to think about, why I hated this match so much. And then I remembered, oh, that's right, they were so much better in NXT.
Yeah, now why were they better in NXT, though, Mark? What was the key to them being as smooth as silk, as you would say?
They had other teams that they could actually work with, and I think their series with DIY is some of the best tag team matches I've ever seen.
Oh my God, so good! And their matches against what was the team with Shorty G? What's the American Alpha?
American Alpha,
yeah.
And I think they worked.
Good.
I think they worked with Who's Whatsy, the Authors of Pain too, which are two big osses, but they worked well with them.
And they had a great match out of Enzo and Cash. They actually did. You know what I mean? Cass and Enzo, they actually had an amazing match against FTR on NXT.
So clearly they can work with a variety of guys. So it's not. So the problems with this match were not them.
Well, I don't know, because I think they got a little bit of they might have been trained by Sheeta, because they've always been a step off every single time they were in the ring. Like they would botch a finisher, or something doesn't seem right, or
But look at
they're
the
half a
variable
step off the finish.
But look at the variable we just identified. When they're when they're working with somebody that's actually good and can keep up and isn't doing a bunch of indie bullshit, they're smooth.
Yes, 100%.
I think they're trying to adapt to the AEW garbage style, and it's like, oh, we can't do half of what we need to be doing because you people, God only knows what you're going to do next.
Yeah,
it's like me and you were dancing, right? You know, and we're doing a complicated like salsa or ballroom dancing, and suddenly you start doing the cha-cha. Like, I don't fucking know what to do. Like, I'm trying to stay with you.
And I think that's exactly right. I mean, you
started flossing in the middle of our ballroom dance, and now I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you're right. When you talk about giving people creative liberties, there's a reason why WWF carefully scripts things and carefully keeps matches together and all that type of stuff. Because this is what it leads to. It leads to people standing in the middle of the ring wondering, what in the fuck is happening with this team that I'm fighting?
And that's the thing. Like, if they had walked in and be like, we're FTR, we came from the better company with better fundamentals, we'll tell you how this match goes. They're coming in and they want to get along. And so I would imagine what's happening is, like, they were like, okay, we're gonna have this match, and Kenny Omega and Adam Page are like, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and this, and FTR are like, they're paying us well.
Yeah.
At least we're not like wiping cream on our asses and
showering with getting caught in the shower with each other and different things like that. Oh, man,
right. It's like that Daffy Duck just like panned to the camera going, "Tain't easy." It's like.
I think that they were better off sticking with that Aladdin gimmick and those magic flying carpets that Vince was going to put them in before they left. Man, this hasn't worked out well for FTR since they've been here.
No,
now, they did add the addition of Tully Blanchard to their act, okay? And I thought that they were going to do something with when they attacked the Rock and Roll Express, which is another bunch of NWA castaways. But they actually looked like they were trying to put a bit of stink behind them, but they have done nothing of the sort since. And this match is just, your Kenny Omega has one style of match, and I'm sure Jim Cornette tells you this every single week on his podcast, that he has this one style. He does 500 V triggers and knee lifts and different, all the same crap over and over and over, double finger pistols, all the same crap.
Right.
And, when you have another team who wants to break out of that mold and do some unique, just basic wrestling inside that ring, you really see the dents in the armor of Kenny Omega, because he can't do it. He can go in with Okada and, spend an hour and a half rolling around the ring and just, exchanging clotheslines and V-triggers.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's easy to have those matches. It's we just do moves to each other and we drop each other on our heads for an hour and a half.
Yeah, listen, exactly right, and that's exactly what these matches over in, these 7-star classics that Dave Meltzer talks about. Rewatch those matches. You tell me Okada versus Omega is not a series of knees to the face and stupid fucking Rainmaker clotheslines, because that is all it is, the entire match. And then when you get
I tried with New Japan. Everyone told me it's the best wrestling ever. It is move, 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 move. We've run out of time.
Yep.
Another move, and then it ends.
Yeah, there's no psychology. The storylines are extremely limited. You know what I mean? They'll do some stuff with Bullet Club, but that's about it. Everything else is move, 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 move. That's it.
Right, and I guess if you're like the kind of wrestling fan, like later on when we see John Moxley and MJF, that was actually a really good match. You want to know why? Yes. Someone worked a fucking arm.
Oh my God! Imagine you work a move and you sell it throughout the match. Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what. You got the winners. FTR did finally capture the tag team championships after all this time. I mean, the match itself, if you put it all together, was okay.
This was a match this was a match of two stories, because the first half of it was super awkward, and everything was a step off, and it was like somebody playing the piano, but they're positioned wrong. So like they're playing the notes, but everything is like a note off. And it seems really pitchy. And then, like, halfway through, I feel like FTR just, like knew they were shit in the bed, so they just said, fuck it. And
yes, exactly.
And then the second half of the match, when FTR seemed smoother, things seemed like they were they were doing more FTR type stuff. They were doing more like double team moves, and they were starting to find some bit of rhythm. And I liked the finish to it. The one thing I didn't like about it was they did the spike pile driver, and Adam Page kicked out. That should have been the end of it.
Yes, finishers, and this is the big thing that WWE is just starting to figure out. So they've shortened the length of their pay-per-view. They're listening to fans, finally. Mm-hmm. They've shortened the length of their matches. Finishers are becoming finishers. On the last 2 shows, they've showed us this. They're going the opposite of AEW's stupid formula, and it's actually starting to work.
So Adam Page, fucking Superman, with red drunk eyes, kicks out of a fucking spike pile driver. They hit him again. They do the spike pile driver again, and they almost fucked it up. And then that finally puts him out. And it's like, why did the second one put him out and not the first one? And that's my problem with a lot of AEW type matches. It's like, it's like you were saying, don't kill your finishers. You can their combinations, clothesline, knee to the face thing that they do, either that finishes you or you miss it entirely. Don't fucking hit people with it, then they kick out. If they're going to do the spike pile driver, that should have been they should have been fighting to get that spike pile driver the entire match.
100%. And then you pay it off. When you finally hit it, it works, it finishes.
There should have been a lot of I don't know who's who.
So instead of Kenny
they both
Omega
have porn names, first of all. Cash Wheeler and Dax Hardwood should be double teaming Destiny Day or somebody. The worst porn names I've ever heard. But whoever whatever the one with the hair is, should have been fighting to get that, and then somebody knocks him off the ropes, or every time they went for it, they should have been denied until they were ready to do the finisher.
Yes, instead of kicking out, just have him flip him off his back and escape the move. That's all you had to do.
Right, or have the partner knock him off the ropes.
You know what this is? I'll tell you what this is, and this is something you haven't heard from me before. This is Starship. Now you're going to ask, why, Chris? What does Starship have to do with this? This is like going to Disney World during their Garden Fest and seeing their garden concerts that they have. And they have the bands pulled out of the 1980s, like partial bands, and they're playing all their old hits. But they're a step off. So I saw Starship, and I heard, we built this city. You know what I mean? We built this city. But they were all over the place with it. They were like, we built this city of rock and roll. You're like, what the fuck are they doing?
They've lost their rhythm. They have no tempo. They're just shouting at you.
And that's what's happening here. It was, I don't know. Anyway, FTR, the new tag team champions, everybody.
All right. Hopefully, if they're building to the Young Bucks FTR at Full Gear, I'm gonna plot. Because it's too fucking soon, and and we're building to it. We're almost there. This company and blowing their load too soon, they're gonna fucking have to hire all new people next year because they blew through so many matches in 1 year. A few in the WWE cycles under normal circumstances in about 3 months.
Exactly.
So every quarter you're changing feuds. And that's good. That way you don't burn through things. That's half my problem with wrestling right now is, remember, I granted it was 40 years ago, but stay with me. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan have their WrestleMania 3 match, right? Absolutely. And Hulk Hogan hip tosses Andre the Giant. They call it a body slam. Andre the Giant's finally beaten, and all is right in the world. They don't touch again until Survivor Series. And the big anticipation was that was that they were on opposite teams, and it was they're kind of having a rematch, and even when you watch the match, they don't touch immediately. They still build and build and build. That's from March to November. Now I know
that's gone. That's absent from today's wrestling.
I know you can't do it totally like that, but why are we ending feuds in a month?
Because you don't have the storyline creativity to string something long and make something interesting. You know what I mean? Okay, so say me and you were feuding, okay? We don't need to have a match. We can do 2 to 3 months of build-up where I'm calling you out and I'm kicking ass in that ring. Hey, take a look at this, Mark Radulich. I'm going to kick the shit out of Darby Allin here. You know what I mean? Beat the crap out of him, throw him in a body bag over the rope because I want you in the next pay-per-view. You know what I mean? That's how you build.
I said this with Cody and MJF. That was 3 to 6 months that they tossed away in a month.
Oh, so short-sighted.
How did MJF not go through the entire Nightmare family in order to get to Cody?
Bingo! That's all you had to do. And you take your slow burn and you finally pay that shit off. But no, sir. It's like getting that new girlfriend and just blowing your load early. It's the same thing.
Like, Moxley and Jericho, they had their match at, I guess it was Full Gear, the last Full Gear, whenever that was. Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, last year, yeah.
And Moxley beat Jericho. How did Jericho not get a return match?
Mind-boggling.
See what I'm saying?
Mind-boggling. So, and not only that, they talked about it a couple of times after that, and then they completely dropped it.
Right. So here's my point. You just gave the tag team titles to FTR. Please don't put them with the Bucks at Full Gear. Fucking wait. Build the Bucks up more. Build up FTR more. Do like I said. Make sure like there's no tag teams left that either one of them haven't faced before they face to where fans are like, there's nobody else. They have to fight each other. They're the best. They build it up to a fever pitch, not just give it away and then forget about it. Now, a feud that has been going on for months, that they did build up properly. I don't understand how this one got all the special attention, other than maybe Jericho actually knows how to do a feud. But yes. Jericho and Orange Cassidy has been going on for months now, and has actually had a proper build. Why they're wasting it on Orange Cassidy, I have no idea. But so Orange Cassidy's whole gimmick is that he's a sloth, he's lazy, and he does like the little comedy baby kicks. He's nothing without that, though. Without that, he's just a skinny, nothing garbage wrestler.
And that's the whole problem with his matches right now, because people want to see the breaking of kayfabe. You know what I mean?
He didn't do any of that in this match.
The hands in the pocket.
They did a good casket match. I can't, don't want to fall into the vat of mimosa. Oh. They did a lot of that. They did, you could actually hear the cartoon music in the background. They played up the gimmick well. I'm gonna, give credit where credit's due. Jericho, they knew what they were doing with this match. They played up, the vat of mimosa. They played around with it. Orange Cassidy got beat up for most of the match, and then and had a hope spot, and then he finally got the big win. But he didn't do any of his gimmick. He was just a skinny white boy in jeans having a grudge match with Jericho.
So you've taken away everything that the fans like about the guy, and he's just not over. And not only that, I gotta fight you on this match because I thought this was a train wreck. So we had 2 separate matches that led up to this one. So the build was done correctly. So Jericho beats the crap out of the guy in the first match, okay? He comes back and evens it up and gets the big win over Jericho, and they make a big deal out of it. So now they're going to have the rubber match, okay? This is the end of the feud, the blow-off. This is where it all goes down, you know what I mean? And what's your stipulation? You can fall in a pool of Tang to win the match. That is literally what this is. And, man, you would swear to God that they were, that it was a pool of piranhas or something, the way that these guys were holding on to those ropes, not wanting to fall into that Tang. It was ridiculous. So, to me, it took away any sense of drama that you had, that falling into this pool was anything but an embarrassment and, would cause you to lose the match. It just, I don't know, it just took the air out. I don't think it was a fitting into the feud. I think Jericho made a star out of Orange Cassidy, but like you said, what do you do with Orange Cassidy now that he's skinny white guy?
He has to go.
Where are you going with it?
He has to go back to baby kicks and stuff like that. And that's the thing is, that's the problem with, when you do it once in a while at an indie show and not many people see it, as a comedy act, it's funny. Once you start doing it every week on TV, 1, it loses its novelty. Two,
Absolutely.
once you had a feud where you show that you can wrestle like a normal person, how do you go back to doing that again?
Well, the gimmick's over. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
You've lost your mystique.
He's got to come back in a mask or something, doesn't he? I feel like
That would be great, actually.
This gimmick has reached the end of the road. He's done as a wrestler. Retire. Go home.
You're exactly... Now, Cassidy did get the win. And, I mean, this took 15 minutes hanging over a pool of Tang to get this done. Match was not bad. I'm going to give Jericho credit because, man, Jericho's work in AEW, I can't praise it enough because he has done everything he can to raise the profile of this company. His matches have been great despite his, he's in shape, he's out of shape. He was more in shape than out of shape in this match, which I appreciated. But he's a pure talent, and having to he's remember when he was in WWE and he was really cantankerous because he had to put over Fandango. Remember he had the match at WrestleMania where he had to fight Fandango, and he was all in a flutter online saying how ridiculous it is, and I'm not going to continue and I'm going to go on and do my own thing after this, and just being a sookie baby. And then he gets here and now he's doing his damnedest to put over Orange Cassidy. I don't know what he saw in the kid, but after this feud, there's nowhere to go. Do you put him back with best friends?
He saw that AEW fans liked him. And I guess AEW fans get a tickle out of seeing it. But I'm telling you right now, like, crowd psychology, this is, especially when crowds start coming back, they're going to lose interest in Orange Cassidy. They have to.
Yep.
It's the same.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing. His gimmick had... The thing about gimmicks is they have to be adaptable. Or you have to you have to do away with them. Like, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Like, there's nothing more they can do with what they've done with him. That's why I said in the beginning, if he's just going to be a mascot and a manager like Marco Stunt, it's fine. Because then he can do that spot periodically. He can knock people off ropes. He can, he can interfere. Maybe he can stop Trent from being pinned every time he shows his face on camera.
Yes. Do you turn him heel? Is that what you do with Orange Cassidy? Do you change his gimmick up altogether? Still have him the sarcastic,
I'm telling
slow
you,
kicking.
I'm telling you, the slow kick thing is done.
Yeah, I agree.
They're going to do it because this company doesn't have the word no in its vocabulary or stop. It's they're going to do it to death because they don't understand this. But I'm telling you right now, this time next year, Orange Cassidy probably won't even be on television.
No, you're damn right about that, and I like what you said there. This is short-sighted, and this is the most short-sighted I've seen AEW in a long time because I think the internet was giving AEW a ton of credit for their new slick action and what they brought catering to the internet fans and all that stuff. I don't think they're catering to that audience anymore. I think that they've taken a different direction, and it's not a good one, man.
Chris, you and I and Chris Sheehan can sit around and off show make jokes and and say silly things, but it's like if we did the same thing, but we also had $1 billion and we had our own wrestling show. It's just guys fucking what makes us laugh, what entertains us, what do we want to do, and that's the thing. It's like it's a variety show with no director.
Bingo.
All right, so a lot of what I wanted to say about the Moxley MJF match, I've kind of already said. Moxley won the title from Jericho, immediately went into a feud with, who did he start with?
He had the Brody Lee feud.
Okay, yeah. I mean, instead of extending that outward, instead of having Moxley continue to fight with the Inner Circle, they just dropped it, and he went on to fight with the Dark Order. And the Dark Order is another big stable that he could have worked his way through, and they did away with it in a month. John Moxley then moved on to Brian Cage, and they brought in Ricky Starks, and instead of extending that for more than a month, they just dropped it.
Baffling. I don't know what was going on, because I think they had a star there in Brian Cage, but it seems like if I'm looking at this pay-per-view, I don't see star written on anything. I would say that Brian Cage is just a mid-card player at this point, looking at this particular show.
If every feud is about 2 to 3 months long, and, in a few pay-per-views. I know they don't do pay-per-views every month, so my math might be a little wonky here, but consider this. If they had done another pay-per-view with Moxley and Jericho, and then maybe a third pay-per-view, and then done 2 to 3 pay-per-views with the Dark Order, we wouldn't have even gotten to Brian Cage by now. He'd be getting to Brian Cage next year, and Lance Archer later on that year.
Bingo.
And instead, he's just burning through people. They're not gonna. Here's my problem with Jon Moxley: they're not gonna have anybody left for this guy to wrestle by a year from now at the rate they're going.
You're right on the money. Just think about how WWF back in the day, how they programmed Hulk Hogan. So they would pick 3 guys over the course of a year. The first part of the year, you'd be fighting, say, Paul Orndorff. Then for the middle of the year, you're going to be fighting King Kong Bundy. Then you're going to wrap up the year, and you're going to head right into Andre the Giant. You know what I mean? It was all in succession.
Right.
But each person had that little stanza of 3 to 4 months of a feud that stretched out on TV. Earthquake, for example.
Right. And then when you were on the road, during that time, you'd be half the year you were fighting Kamala, and the other half it was the Big Boss Man.
You got it. Bad News Brown, all these people on house shows. You had your dance partner for an extended period of time. You really got to know each other. You got to play out the storylines. But these people are just flying through them. It's like the Monster of the Week on Smallville or something. It's just click, 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 cheeseburger, 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 bang it out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's actually a really good analogy. It's it's like every week there's a new Flash villain.
So
God,
don't get me started on that.
They're just going through the entire Rogues Gallery, one episode at a time. And that's what I hate. When I saw that they were going to pair up MJF, I liked his promo. Everything else was garbage about the build-up after that. He had the one promo where he was like, "I have the best ratings on the entire show, and that makes Jon Moxley jealous." Okay,
yes,
cool,
simple.
And so I want to be champion. I don't think garbage wrestler Jon Moxley is good for this company. You deserve better. And then instead of just continuing to tear Jon Moxley down or have do something with Wardlow, have Wardlow through. How did we not get a Wardlow Jon Moxley match?
Didn't they have one? Didn't they have just a blow off? I don't know.
Not that I remember. The last thing I remember was they beat him up, and MJF stood over him with the belt.
I mean, listen, okay, so the build itself has been okay in regards to what they have been doing. I mean, you had
it started off good, then he walked off a cliff. The stuff the stuff doing it like an election style thing was funny the first time, and then it's. I think Sheehan brought this up on a show once, where it's like a little kid, where the little kid tells you a joke, and you laugh, and then it's like my son. My son has been telling me, why did the cookie go to the doctor? Because he was feeling very crummy. I've heard this joke for a fucking year now. Every time he says it, I said, "Get new material, you hack." He says to the 6-year-old.
He won me over. With that one. I'll take that. Tell him that Chris laughed at that one.
Yeah, because it's the first time you're hearing it.
Yes, exactly.
When it's the 7,000th time you've heard it, it isn't funny. And that's
Absolutely.
AEW. AEW is a 6-year-old boy who got one funny joke. They never know when to stop, and so it's like they do the thing once where he's just like, "I'm MJF, and I'm running for your AEW." Okay, then stop doing it. Stop acting like you're a politician and doing the same joke every week with that one poor girl who's smiling so hard her face is going to fall off.
Which is her gimmick, which she does well.
It's stupid though, and it's repetitive and it's redundant. And it's like this company never knows when to stop.
I don't think this should have been the blow off, and I think it was treated like the blow off because we've already moved on to Murder Hawk and Mox.
Right.
You know what I mean? They've already set that up, and they put a decent amount of TV time into this build, especially into MJF. They really put this guy over. So I was surprised to see that MJF didn't win this match or came off with some sort of, combobulated finish at the end here, because this seemed like the dust off of the match in their first match, really.
Right.
And he beat him with his finishing move, despite the move being banned. Maybe that's the angle that they're going to use. Maybe that's how they're going to spin it for the next little while. That, I got robbed. He used an illegal move, blah, 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 blah. Well, time will tell. We'll find out tonight what they're going to do.
Yeah, well, they're probably going to end the feud because that's how they do. They have one pay-per-view match and then we're done.
Darby Allin comes out and attacks MJF this week, and everybody forgets about it.
Yeah, it's a fucking ADD-addled company. Anyway, they had a good match, though.
They did.
They did a little work on the outside, but Jon Moxley actually wrestled inside the ring, which was nice for a change. That's
the whole basics of this match. So MJF, as the heel, he knows that Jon Moxley does his work outside the ring. Like, he likes to brawl in the stands. He likes to throw you in a pit of tacks, you know what I mean? And he refused to go outside, which forced Moxley to rub his head and get back in the ring and actually wrestle. So that was genius on that part. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And MJF started this match.
This was one of the few matches that had psychology in it.
Yes. He started the match wrestling Jon Moxley. Like, these guys had a blood feud, and he gets in there, and he's going to put him in wrist locks and headlocks. But it's great because he's actually toying with the guy, you know what I mean? It's pure psychology. And it worked 100%. Right booking in this one.
Yeah.
They can throw it away.
I just wish it had been a little bit shorter. It was a little overlong. I think for the kind of match they were having, it needed to be less than 20 minutes, not over 20 minutes. But I like the psychology of the match. I like the way... I love the finish. Like MJF just not being able to put Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley will never say die, and so Wardlow distracts the ref. He throws the ring. It's such a small item, it gets lost in the mat. And while the ref's back is turned, Jon Moxley, who had been wanting to do the paradigm shift the entire match, finally gets an opportunity to do it. And he hits him with the move, and out goes MJF. It's the perfect setup to continue the feud because now MJF can be like, "That's bullshit. You broke the rules. You should have been disqualified."
Yeah, and you know what? They should award the victory to MJF this week on AEW. You know what I mean? They should do it. At least a disqualification win or something, and then continue the feud. At least one more pay-per-view or one
like
more.
The UFC when a fighter like Mark Hunt and Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar beat Mark Hunt, but then he popped positive, so it's a no contest now.
Oh, I hated that. Oh, I was so pissed with that. But anyway, you're right. That's exactly how this should play out. But they should not let this go yet. This, to me, the paradigm shift at the end says that they're going to have at least one more. They're going to at least blow it off on TV or something. I can't see this being the end. If they do, then, well, you just take a piss on this company because they don't have a clue what they're doing.
AEW is doing fairly well. Earlier in the summer, you and I did reviews for Fight for the Fallen and Fyter Fest, and we were like, this is going in a good direction. This is working.
Definitely.
I think we liked Double or Nothing from what I remember. We didn't have any major complaints there. This was like a giant step backwards. This was like this was 2019. This was all the shit they were doing wrong last year. And between herky-jerky matches, bad booking, nearly killing a guy, and continuing the show anyway.
What I found funny is that the WWE seems to have to get this thing figured out. So I praised AEW for their matches, match quality, pacing of their shows, just the excitement level on their Dynamite show and all that type of stuff. Always something new happening. And now we're seeing the opposite. So the WWE has reduced they've increased the newness on the shows. I mean, we can laugh all you want at, Raw Underground. Yes, ridiculous idea. They're trying something new. I'll give them a pass on that. You're trying something different. You've reduced the time on your pay-per-views. You've stopped using your finishers over and over and over and over in these spot fest matches. And it's a watchable product all of a sudden. You've split tag teams up. You've got different things happening, you know what I mean? You got big momentum going on the show. But this company, AEW, seems to be taking everything that was good about themselves and just throwing it away. Like, they seem to be comfortable being WWE light. I don't know.
It would be nice if everybody in AEW weren't a bunch of pussies.
Fair enough.
Let's have some people get mad and fucking attack people. Let's have, good guys actually act honorable for a change.
And a real attack. Let's not, put someone upside down and, pour bubbly on them. Come on, like an actual real attack. You know what I mean? NWO style. Pitching Rey Mysterio head first into a trailer. That type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just, I fast forward through a lot of AEW because I don't want to see attempts at the best bout machine matches. I don't want to see move fests. I want to see wrestling, but I want to see wrestling that means something, to where guys are pissed if they lose and they actually really fight for it. And that's, and the impression I get from AEW at times is they're all out there to do gymnastics floor routines, and that's the intent.
Bingo.
We don't want to be mad at each other. It's all, Ring of Honor used to do the thing where you have to shake hands before you wrestle. They were going for a more sports-based thing, but, you got to have emotion. You got to have, if you don't want it, why do I want it for you?
You are right on the money. You're exactly right.
All right, so the next time Chris and I get together, one of the Chris's and I, or both Chris's and I get together, will be for Clash of the Champions, and that's going to be Tuesday, September 29th. That's the next wrestling. Clash of the Champions is the 27th. We'll review it the following Tuesday.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm all in for that, brother.
We got reviews for Tenet and Mulan up, and we'll have another review for Gretzko Season 3 up tomorrow. Last week we did New Mutants, Bill and Ted Face the Music, Demon Bear, Bill and Ted Save the Universe, and we did A Long Road to Ruin for the Bill and Ted movies. So you can check those out. Chris, what do you got going on?
Oh, boy, we got lots of stuff happening. We got myself and Chris Sheehan are over on the Chris and Reggie Network, and we're banging out Moratory Mondays. We're climbing in to the last 3 episodes or last 3 issues of that series before it wraps up. And we've got some surprises, some special guests, and all kinds of things starting this Monday coming. So stay tuned for that. We've got some interesting stuff. We've got some weird stuff, and trust me, they're going to be worth tuning into. As for professional wrestling, can't wait to talk more wrestling here with Mr. Mark Radulich with the Podsman. And we got some, what is it coming up? Clash of the Champions, baby.
All right. Love it. Thank you for joining us on TV Party tonight. Sorry for the speaking of herky-jerky, the herky-jerkiness of this show. We had some minor technical difficulties, but that's all right. We are the Podsmen, and we ride on. Be well. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Go watch Mulan with Cheetah.